This is Nate Williams for The Boxing Voice, joined by Eddie Hearn. Big fight, you've got it in London.
Yeah.
How pleased are you, Eddie?
Pleased. I mean, obviously I want Luke Campbell to win. I know it's kind of like the Lomachenko show, isn't it? Everyone's talking about, oh wow, pound for pound #1, legend coming to Britain. But the reason that he's here is because we think we can win. So we didn't want to take more money to do it in America. We wanted to try and win the fight. So big ask. He's a genius, Lomachenko, isn't he? But Luke's here to try and win the fight, and we look forward to not just a big fight in that respect, but a huge undercard on Saturday, particularly Povetkin against Hughie Fury. I think it's a brilliant fight. Charlie Edwards in a great fight, Boatsi, Caldina, Gwynn, non-stop. So, I think looking forward to a massive night, sold out, has been for 3 or 4 weeks, so it's a pleasure to promote this fight.
A big question among boxing fans and boxing journalists in general is, who is your pound for pound top 3?
Well, when I'm promoting a Canelo fight, it's Canelo, and when I'm promoting a Lomachenko fight, it's Lomachenko. I think the two are very close, but I think when you look at the way Lomachenko's winning his fights, and particularly like the early fights that he won, if you look back at even like back to the Walters fight and the Gary Russell fight and stuff like that, people sometimes forget the opposition he's beaten. Linares, even Pedraza, he was world champion at the time. So I think you have to say right now Lomachenko's pound for pound #1. And this is a moment for British boxing where we've bought Golovkin here, we've bought Errol Spence here, we've bought Terence Crawford here, but the last two were particularly at earlier stages in her career. Right now, Lomachenko is absolute prime of his career and is the world pound for pound #1. So that hasn't happened for British boxing for a long time. So that's why we've sold so quickly. That's why we expect a massive show.
Is it easy to bring big stars over to the UK because the clamour for boxing over here is just massive?
They want to fight him. Do you know what I mean? Despite what Bob says in the press conference, Lomachenko wanted to fight in the UK. He came over to, I think it was Parker against Joshua. He was here for Usyk against Bellew, saw that fight, and they love it. They love it. They love the experience. You saw the reaction and reception he got from the fans last night. So they want to fight in the UK, and he's going to have a big support. Not just from Ukrainian fans, but also from Brits that love Loma. So we want to make sure the Brits support Luke Campbell, and that home support, that home advantage, can help in what will be a very difficult fight.
Could you bring Canelo over here?
Yeah, I think again, Lomachenko doesn't make the kind of money that Canelo does, but Canelo would love to fight in the UK as well, I believe, listening to his comments. So we have the ability to bring these major fights to the UK. Sometimes it's not easy, but we've done it for this one.
While we're on super middleweight, what's the next step for Callum Smith?
So he's going to be looking to defend his title in end of October, early November. The Billy Joe Saunders fight is a fight that we want to try and make for spring, summer of next year, but as is Canelo, Golovkin, Danny Jacobs, all these big fights that are available to him. But really, 2020 needs to be the year that he just goes in the deep end the whole year and see how he comes out the other side.
And moving on to Anthony Yard, fought Kovalev recently. What did you make of that fight?
I thought it was a good performance. I'm disappointed by the negativity to Yard. I thought he'd done really well. He's been matched so badly that he's never had the experience needed to be in championship fights. But he did really well. He didn't win many rounds, but he had a moment in the fight where it looked like he might get him out of there. So his stock's risen. He'll come again, and I thought it was a good performance.
In an alternate universe where Eddie Hearn is Anthony Yard's promoter, how would you have managed his career?
Only I would have put him in 1 or 2 proper fights to make sure he was ready for those fights, because they got him to #1 in the world in the WBO through fighting absolutely nobody. So you can't go from absolutely nobody to Kovalev and with no amateur pedigree and just expect to win the fight. He did really well considering, but what he needed was the fights in between. If you look at Boatsi's fighting the same level guys that Yard was, maybe a little bit better. But he needs the Sullivan Barreras, those kind of guys to show that he's ready for world level. Because you can't go from Ryan Ford to Kovalev. You might win, but you don't. Why should we take a chance with Boatsi when I believe he is the absolute goods? When he's ready for those fights, he'll be in those fights and he'll be ready to win those fights.
And you've recently struck a deal with Gennady Golovkin.
Yeah, it's amazing.
How did that come about? Because he came to you apparently.
Yeah, well, I went to him originally to do the Dazn deal. I brought John Skipper, and he had Triple G promotions, and I kind of left them to it because I just wanted to make sure Gennady would be on Dazn. I made it clear to him that I'd like to try and work with him in the future. And after his last fight, he came to me and we worked together, and just said that we'd like you on the team. So it was a privilege for me because he could have gone with anyone, and he's obviously one of the biggest stars in world boxing. So to promote his show October the 5th and moving forward and be part of guiding his career is an honour.
What's the plan for Golovkin?
Well, he fights Lomachenko on October the 5th at MSG, and then he liked the Canelo fight. He wanted that fight in September. Obviously, that didn't happen, but that's the fight that he truly wants. But at the same time, you've got Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Demetrius Andre, Danny Jacobs rematch, and they're all guys under our banner. So, all the big fights out there for him.
Well, are those two hard to bring together now because they fought each other twice? Do they really?
Danny and Gennady,
no,
Canelo.
Canelo and
Canelo's going to do what he wants to do. You can't tell him what he's got to do. But the main thing with Gennady was to make sure that we took control now as a team of his career. Didn't wait around for Canelo. We said no, we're going to go out, fight Lomachenko for the world title, and then move on. And if Canelo don't want the fight in May, then look at the others. Like I said, Callum Smith up at super middle, Billy Joe Saunders can box at super middle or middleweight, Danny Jacobs rematch, Demetrius Andre unification. They're all there for Gennady Golovkin.
Finally, just a few heavyweight questions. There was a lawsuit apparently this week to try and force the Ruiz match, but that cleared up. And why did you have to do that and then pull away?
Just because some of his comments were a bit worrying, that he thought that he hadn't signed a contract for the fight, or he didn't, and he had. So we enforced that through the New York High Court, but we found a resolution and that was dismissed. So we just had to protect our position, really. And make sure that Andy Ruiz would take this fight, the fight that he signed up for. So press conferences are next week. Saudi Arabia, New York and London, next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's going to be an absolute monster fight. It's the biggest fight of the year. It's one of the biggest heavyweight fights of all time. And December 7 it goes down.
And just a quick personal question for me. When you say purpose-built stadium, what's it going to look like?
It's going to be stunning. It's going to be open air. It's actually set up for about 3 or 4 sporting events that are occurring at the same time. So the work's underway on that. Our logistical team went out last week, met everybody out there, went through the hotels and whole setup of the event, and it's going to be spectacular. These guys realise that the whole world will be watching on December 7th, but it's not their first rodeo. They've done Formula E, which is part of Formula 1. They've done the World Boxing Super Series. They've done Amir Khan fights. They've done WWE Royal Rumble. They've done the Italian Super Cup football. They've got a big tennis event coming. They did David Guetta a few weeks back, 70,000 people, 50 Cent, Janet Jackson. These guys are staging major events all the time. So this is a big event for them, but something they're used to.
Are you not prepared for any, because obviously women is a big issue over there, and fans are going to want to go, female fans. Are you prepared to, hear any stories that might be a backlash of that event?
We expected a backlash, but sometimes people have to know the truth and the facts. You can't just read something on Twitter and presume that it's true. So women have come on and said, well, we're not allowed to go. I said, what are you talking about? Well, I've been told women aren't allowed to enter the country. Incorrect. Women aren't allowed to show. Incorrect. You can't get a visa. Incorrect. You get a visa when you buy a ticket. So all these things, it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a historic event. There's going to be all kinds of activities happening around the week, music, concerts, entertainment. They're going for it, Saudi Arabia. They know the world's watching. This is their chance to showcase, Saudi Arabia, this is their chance to showcase a major event in their kingdom, and they will deliver.
Just finally, I'm not going to ask about the B sample because you're probably tired of saying he was cleared to fight. But I was listening to Tony Bellew's viewpoint on it on Fight Disciples, and he said, why would Dillian Whyte pay 50 grand to sign up to VADA testing, but equally Jarrell Miller signed up and
but he didn't request it. The difference in that situation is Jarrell Miller didn't want to sign up to VADA for that process. We made him sign up to that program, and we paid for it, by the way, in that instance. And we had to chase him to sign up to the VADA test. Dillian Whyte actually ensures that and pushes us to make sure there's VADA testing, and pays for it himself as well, by the way. So again, that's not necessarily, doesn't exactly clear up the situation, but it's important to know that this guy is very clear in his mind that full testing has to happen for all his fights. So in that respect, and actually that testing was imperative to the reason he was cleared, and that will come out in due course. And it's frustrating because we have to wait for.
Will anything actually happen with UCAT?
When is it? Okay.
Will anything actually?
No, they will. There'll be a statement. That people they need a statement from UCAT and Dylan so that the fans can say, okay, we understand, because he's innocent right now.
Because they dropped the case against the Furies.
No, but they dropped the case. He was cleared to fight. So they basically have cleared him to fight. He's not suspended, no punishment. So we need a full statement to make sure that the fans go, okay, fair enough, and he can get on with his career.
Thank you, Eddie.
If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.